Hi friends. I'll admit I had a different intro planned out, but then I remembered something funny. At least I thought it was funny. I don't know if you've seen trailers for the other imaginary friend movie, If, starring Ryan Reynolds. I feel like I am constantly seeing trailers for that one. I don't remember if we watched the trailer or saw a poster for one movie or the other, but I told my honey that Imaginary was the Ryan Reynolds movie. He didn't think anything of it because, look, I pick the movies, I pick the showtimes, I buy the tickets, and he just comes along with me. At the time, of course, I was obviously joking, but I completely forgot that I told him that. Fast forward to us sitting in the theater for Imaginary, and if you know, you know, but after the opening sequence, my honey slowly leans over and he tells me, this is not the Ryan Reynolds movie. Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back. It's your movie buddy here, ready to talk about the latest movie I watched. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or follower or a new face, I'm thrilled to have you here. You can expect spoiler-free reviews and my honest thoughts about the latest film I watched in theaters or maybe one I streamed at home. If you're looking for my thoughts on the latest movie I streamed at home, you can always find those episodes exclusively on the podcast. You can catch weekly releases dropping every Friday. Have a movie in mind that you want me to talk about? Hop into my DMs on Instagram, drop a comment on YouTube, or let me know on the podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and follow along on Instagram so you don't miss out on what I'm up to and what's coming next. As always, any TikToks or articles I've mentioned in today's episode will be linked in this episode's description. With that all out of the way, grab your popcorn, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, and let's get into today's episode on Imaginary. When Jessica moves back to her childhood home with her family, her youngest stepdaughter, Alice, finds a stuffed bear named Chauncey. As Alice's behavior becomes more and more concerning, Jessica intervenes only to realize that Chauncey is much more than the stuffed toy bear she believed him to be. I found several intriguing thematic elements woven throughout this film, particularly its exploration of childhood trauma, memory, healing, and the dynamics of family. I think these ideas work really well with this story, though it's worth noting that the film doesn't delve deeply or portray these ideas in a super serious way. Instead, it presents these ideas in a manner that leans more toward entertainment than intense analysis. Focusing on the idea of family and really finding acceptance in a blended family was really interesting to me. We follow Jessica, portrayed by DeWanda Wise, as she navigates her role as stepmother to two daughters, struggling notably with her connection to the eldest, Taylor, played by Tegan Burns, while finding a more natural relationship with the youngest, Alice, portrayed by Piper Braun. It's clear throughout the movie that Jessica is struggling to feel like she belongs, but that she's trying her best. I think this narrative delivers a fine take on a deeply emotional reality for so many people. Character development is something, like many things in this movie, that if you look too closely at and you're too critical of, it just starts to fall apart. I think the character development is rushed across the board. There is groundwork laid throughout the movie, it's evident through the acting, but it's very plainly set in a way that contributes to the overall development feeling weak and again, rushed. Now, this is the part where we talk about cinematography and visuals. While the film certainly has its standout moments, what truly gets me every single time, and what we're going to talk about actually, are the practical effects. For some reason, I was not expecting as much as we got, and I definitely wasn't anticipating the level of craftsmanship displayed in this movie. The amount captured in frame on set was really, really impressive. I love that the movie went this route. It's a refreshing departure from the excessive CGI that I think we're all used to seeing nowadays. The puppeteering is seamless, lending an eerie and unnatural quality to the film. Additionally, the monster suits worn by the actors are amazing, further enhancing the immersive experience of the film. Shifting focus to the acting, the entire cast deserves praise for their adept portrayal of their respective characters, with the script they were given. That said, I really liked DeWanda Wise in this movie. Last time I saw her was in Jurassic World Dominion. Well, last time, first time, and only time. So I'm glad that she got more screen time and opportunity to showcase her talent. Of course, I think she nailed the moments when Jessica was running around scared, but I was really engaged with the moments when Jessica was trying to connect with her stepdaughters, when she was listening to Alice talk to her imaginary friend, and when she was helping her with the scavenger hunt, just to name a few of those moments. Speaking of the stepdaughters, Piper Braun and Tegan Burns deliver really good performances as Alice and Taylor, respectively. While their characters may embody familiar tropes, the younger, imaginative sibling and the rebellious older sister, the young actresses really add a layer of authenticity and nuance to their portrayals. Like I mentioned earlier with the character development and laying the foundation, I think Tegan did a really good job with Taylor, making it clear that she's dealing with the complexities of her changing family dynamic while maintaining the sensitivity of an older sister and daughter. Piper did a fantastic job, and I mean that because I can get annoyed easily with child characters. She's convincingly a younger sister and a daughter, of course, but her chemistry with the cast is fantastic all around. I especially love the performance she delivers during the pivotal therapy session and how that moment really impacts the movie and me when I was sitting in the theater, but we'll get to that later in the episode. Moving on from the performances, I want to touch on a few things. But the thing that may have been limiting, the thing I'm talking about when I say the actresses delivered with the script they were given, we're talking about the writing and we're talking about the dialogue. The weaknesses in the writing and dialogue are evident at times, giving characters weird dialogue that doesn't feel natural and it just came across as unrealistic. Another thing is that the movie's predictable. I will admit, there is a moment where I got goosebumps. I feel like that moment elevated this movie for me, but we'll talk about that later. Overall, the movie is predictable. You can see everything coming, and while the executions are done well, there were moments when I felt myself wanting to laugh or actually laughing several times throughout the movie. The pacing is fine, but it definitely feels rushed toward the end. This hastiness undermines the exploration of the intriguing setting of the Never Ever, which offers a glimpse of creative potential that remain largely untapped. I can see why they didn't explore this realm more, but I just wanted to see more. This might just be a preference thing. Now, let's wrap up with my final thoughts on the movie. After going over the story, the ideas, practical effects, and the acting, the real question remains, is it worth your time? Let's lay it all on the table. This movie has a lot of potential, but I think it was missing maybe more effort to really polish this movie. I wish the dad was worked in more or just written differently. His abrupt departure from the movie felt disjointed, and I understand that this is because the focus is really on the relationship between stepmother and stepdaughters, but it just felt off in terms of storytelling. Speaking of the dad, there was one point in the film where he talks about his own imaginary friend, which is fine, but it was given so much attention, time, and detail that you would have thought, or at least I thought, this imaginary friend was going to come back later in the film. Weird choices like that happened throughout the movie. There was a moment when Taylor was looking up into the window of a boy neighbor that she liked, and he just closed the blinds on her. Watching the movie, it makes total sense, but it was just so funny the way that it played out. The movie is full of moments like this, and I'm not sure how much of that humor was actually intentional. I saw a review online that said, quote, "Imaginary skips the directive to entertain, coming off as stiff, pedestrian, and dreary as a March space filler can get," end quote. When I first read that, I was thinking it was pretty harsh, but it's a valid opinion. I read several negative reviews that were in line with this one. Complaints about its pacing, forgettable nature, and that the movie is boring. I also saw a review that mentioned the lack of male representation. I think if you've been here for a minute, then you know where I stand on that. Moving along, Imaginary does present an intriguing premise exploring the sinister potential of imaginary friends, and this idea fits really well into the story. I also love the themes of family, finding your place in a family, and healing from your past. Sure, a lot of these elements, and a lot of elements in the film, are plainly portrayed or pedestrian. I can agree with that, but it's still entertaining in my opinion. One aspect that particularly shines is the practical effects and puppeteering, which add a layer of authenticity to the supernatural elements. I just wish we saw more, but that absolutely comes down to preference. While some may find the predictability of the plot a drawback, the film manages to maintain engagement through effective storytelling and standout scenes. I said I would talk about the moment that gave me the goosebumps and elevated the movie for me. Obviously, no spoilers, but the whole scene with the therapist was fantastic. Again, it's one of those standout scenes, standing out in a movie as one of maybe two really fantastic scenes, and it was definitely the one that got an "oh my gosh" or "what" out of me in the theater. Have you had the chance to watch Imaginary yet? If you haven't watched it yet, what's holding you back? Not your cup of tea, not your genre. I'm curious to hear your thoughts after today's episode. And if you already watched the movie, I want to know your take. What did you think about it? Share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions. I am all ears. While Imaginary has the elements for a strong horror flick, it ended up not living up to its potential. I do wish the narrative wasn't given outright in the trailers and synopsis. This would have lent to a stronger story. Despite this, the movie wasn't without at least a couple of moments that really surprised me. The plot is pretty cliche, but the way certain elements of the story were utilized was really interesting. If you're curious about the scaries, Imaginary will not live up to expectations for those seeking a truly terrifying experience. As a PG-13 horror flick, it really does make the scares easy to get through, with jump scares both loud and subtle throughout. While not executed masterfully, those quiet jump scares, the presence of eerie figures lurking in the background does evoke a sense of unease. That kind of stuff freaks me out. I said it in one of my recent episodes that this movie has mixed reviews, so I was mixed on whether or not I wanted to really try to make an effort to go see this one. Well, after seeing the movie, I can now confidently say that Imaginary will find its audience. While it may not appeal to everyone, it definitely has an interesting premise and delivers a few genuine scares. Moreover, its humor, though perhaps not always intentional, adds to that entertainment value. It's cheesy and flawed, so I would say if you're looking for a polished horror film, skip this one or adjust your expectations. However, for fans of campy horror with a side of imperfection, Imaginary offers a quirky, a little cute, a little funny, but enjoyable viewing experience with easy to digest scares. All right, movie fans, that wraps up another episode. If you're enjoying this episode on the podcast, a huge thank you for tuning in. For our YouTube viewers, you'll find a link to the podcast in the description below. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. As always, thanks a million for joining me today, friends. Your support means the world to me, and remember, the movie talk doesn't stop. So tune in every Friday for fresh episodes. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, follow on Spotify for on-the-go listening, and join the fun over on Instagram for behind-the-scenes sneak peeks and more shenanigans. If you're interested in movies, then you might know that this weekend is packed, and I can already see myself struggling to figure out what to watch and when to watch it, but I am getting ahead of myself. We've at least got tickets for Ghostbusters locked in. Frozen Empire looks fun. I'm interested in the ghost designs as well as how the original cast is going to be used in this story. After that one, I've got tickets for Monkey Man, Dev Patel and Jordan Peele. This movie looks awesome, gritty, and brutal. Like I said before, I am eager to get into a good action flick, and this one looks really promising. That is the last movie I have tickets for, so let's move on to the updates. Like I said, what to watch and when to watch it this weekend. If you caught at least the last episode, then you know I was trying to get tickets for Late Night with the Devil, but the nearest theater was 20 minutes away, which honestly, it isn't far, but I have a theater that's like 5 minutes up the street. Well, they finally posted showtimes for this movie, so I will absolutely be getting tickets. And I still want to see Immaculate. I'm thinking one on Friday, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. I am going to try to see everything, so wish me luck. I did watch Damsel, which marks our 100th episode milestone on the podcast. Back-to-back milestones, you guys. A huge thank you to all of our listeners for taking the time to check out the pod and for your ongoing support. It truly means so much to me. If you want to know my thoughts on Damsel, be sure to catch that exclusive episode on the podcast. Godzilla x Kong, I do want to see it, so I will see that one as soon as I get the chance. I will be going on vacation when that movie comes out in theaters. Because I'm skipping the theater that weekend, you'll be getting another podcast exclusive episode, and this one will be for the movie Stop Motion. If you're looking for more exclusive episodes, I got a request for the movie Animal, and recently I got a request for the movie 6 Underground, so those are being added to the list. I have things loosely planned out, and you will definitely be getting more podcast exclusives soon. Last week, I shared my thoughts on Kung Fu Panda 4. If you missed out on that episode, please be sure to catch that one on the podcast, and if you're on YouTube, you can click the top right corner of today's video. Your feedback on that review would be awesome too. As always, I'm looking forward to you all joining me on YouTube, Instagram, and the podcast. Don't forget to tune in on Spotify for those exclusive episodes. Your presence and engagement truly make the difference, and it means so much to me. I value your feedback. It enriches our little community and makes it a fun place to be. Share your thoughts in the YouTube comments or hop over to Spotify for our Q&A and polls. Whether you're following on YouTube, Spotify, or Instagram at a.rocket.review, I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Until next time, spread positivity, be safe, take care of yourself, and happy movie watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.